So, if you guys haven't heard the news yet, The Last of Us Part 2 got nominated for Game of the Year. Now, me personally, I'm very excited for this because The Last of Us Part 2 has quickly become one of my favorite games of all time. I totally understand why people don't like it, and it's completely fine if you don't. There are plenty of valid reasons not to like the game, but that's for a different video. The point is, The Last of Us Part 2 has kind of been sweeping the floor at the Game Awards so far. Now, before I start saying shit that's gonna piss people off, I need to remind you all that the Game Awards is some dickless nerd shit. It's nothing to get mad over, which is exactly why I'm making this video. Because in the long run, people play games that are good, not games that get tons of awards. So, even if you're one of the people that thinks The Last of Us 2 doesn't deserve Game of the Year, just remember that this is the same award ceremony that gave Overwatch the Game of the Year over Uncharted 4. But basically, to boil it all down, anything The Last of Us Part 2 could possibly have gotten nominated for, whether it was Best Narrative, Best Action Adventure, Best Art Design, The Last of Us Part 2 got nominated for it. Do I think The Last of Us Part 2 will win Game of the Year? I'm not sure. I really wanted to win. The Last of Us Part 2 is easily my favorite game this year, in my personal opinion. Once again, I realized that it has hundreds of flaws, and I'll talk about them all in an upcoming video. But you know what? Let's just get started with this. So this is your warning, spoilers for The Last of Us and The Last of Us Part 2. Get off the damn video for fuck's sake if you haven't played these games. God damn. Now before we really get into this, before you go into the comments section calling me a libtard, SJW, whatever the fuck you want to call me, I don't really care. I don't have a political opinion, to be honest. I never really want to get into politics on this YouTube channel. I don't care for them. I'm just against any form of generalization or jumping to conclusions in an unironic manner. And before you call me a Last of Us 2 fanboy, shut up. Seriously. Yes, I like The Last of Us 2, however, I'm absolutely disgusted by the behavior of the fans of this game. Threatening anyone who don't like it, calling anyone who dislikes the game a bigot, hell, even threatening the fucking voice actors for doing their jobs. However, I'm not going to defend some of the idiots who hate this game either. Calling everyone who likes the game a homophobic slur I can't say, saying the only people who like it are LGBTQ people, and harassing the people who made the game, honestly, nobody is in the right here. People are literally making this game political when it has no reason to be so. It's honestly quite sad today that you can't voice your opinions on a fucking video game without getting harassed, that talking about The Last of Us Part 2 has kind of become as bad as talking about politics. People say politics have no place in games, and I agree. The thing is that they're bringing politics into the game. Anyways, we need to talk about TheQuartering first. TheQuartering has become one of the most vocal YouTube channels for The Last of Us Part 2. He's hated the game even before the leaks came out. Now again, I'm not saying that there aren't some terrible YouTube channels who like The Last of Us Part 2. Because there sure as hell are. You wanna look at some? Look at fucking Breakthrough Gaming or some shit like that. Oh my god, those people fucking disgust me. But let me just catch you up on a few things here. After the release of The Last of Us Part 2, the gaming community pretty much became a massive cesspool. People were at each other's throats, even sending death threats to Neil Druckmann, Haley Gross, and Laura Bailey, who was the voice actor of Abby, and she didn't even do a bad job. Hell, these psychos even threatened Jocelyn Mettler, whatever the fuck, however the fuck you pronounce her name, the fucking face model for Abby. Not the voice actor, not the writer, not even a fucking developer. These people are fucking idiots. And as expected, when these stories came to light and Laura Bailey started talking about the death threats, the haters literally played the victim, saying that Neil Druckmann was bragging. But hey, at least they brought these stories up, and it's extremely ironic that when any wrong thing that Naughty Dog does, they're all up in that shit. Any big name who dislikes The Last of Us 2, they're literally eating that shit out. For example, when Tyler 1 and PewDiePie said they didn't like the game, they literally made several videos talking about them. But then when Donkey and Girlfriend Reviews said they liked the game and gave several reasons why, they just turned a fucking blind eye to this. The double standards of these people are amazing. Now, I'm not saying that everyone who hates The Last of Us 2 is some neo-Nazi, evil bigot who wants to watch gay people burn, because that is not the case. There are tons of valid reasons not to like this game. There wouldn't be like 3-hour-long videos if there weren't. But there are tons of people who hate this game for the wrong reasons, like the "it's woke trash" argument, which these people love to bring up. So now let's finally just dive right in and look at these absolutely fantastic videos.
On December 10th, the world will come together to celebrate video games at the Game Awards, streaming live everywhere. For Best Performance, the nominees are Ashley Johnson as Ellie, The Last of Us Part 2. Laura Bailey as Abby, The Last of Us Part 2. In the category of Best Art Direction, The Last of Us Part 2. For Best Score and Music, The Last of Us Part 2. The Best Audio Design nominees are The Last of Us Part 2. Innovation and Accessibility, The Last of Us Part 2. In the category of Best Narrative, The Last of Us Part 2.
So TheQuartering's video starts off with an honestly pretty funny video of Jeff Keighley announcing the nominees of Game of the Year, with every single one being The Last of Us 2, which again I'll admit is pretty funny. However, this video just goes downhill from here.
But for right now, I will be covering the Video Game Awards, and of course, the fact that The Last of Us Part 2 is nominated for nearly every single category on the planet, as if anyone were surprised.
Okay, so first off, we need to look at the nominations for this game. The Last of Us Part 2 has a whopping 10 nominations in every category that it was eligible for. It got nominated for Game of the Year. For a game to represent 2020, The Last of Us Part 2 was easily one of the biggest games this year and most talked about. Best Game Direction, basically how the directing is. I don't really know how this category works, so this might just be the one questionable category that they gave it, but there's very few bugs in Part 2, and the directing really shows that Neil Druckmann wanted to bring a quality experience by delaying the game multiple times. Best Narrative. This one is pretty controversial because a lot of people don't like the story for Last of Us 2, which is, again, very valid. You're allowed to not like something. I totally get that. But I really like the story of the game. I think it's different, interesting, and really just something new that I've never seen before. I can tell you hundreds of stories that the first Last of Us game reminds me of. Maze Runner, Up, The Stand, The Road, The Walking Dead Telltale, and so on and so forth. The first Last of Us is not original at all. The characters make that game good. While in Part 2, some of the characters are very good, it's the plot that makes that game stand out, while the characters are the only thing honestly lacking in that game. Best Art Direction. Not a single person can deny that The Last of Us Part 2 is a good-looking game. To me, it's probably one of the best-looking games I've ever seen. The textures are gorgeous, the environments are beautiful, and the character models look damn near lifelike. Best Score and Music. The Last of Us Part 2's in The Last of Us's music is very different from anything we've heard before. It's like this lone ambient guitar that really fits well with the setting, in my opinion, and this game would easily be a nomination for this. Best Audio Design. This one is a no fucking brainer. It's impossible to think that the thousands of sounds you hear in Part 2 were designed in a fucking studio. It's honestly insane. And once again, you really just can't deny this. Best Performance. Notice how this is not Best Character, but Best Performance. Ashley Johnson as Ellie and Laura Bailey as Abby are both nominated for this category, and yeah, these people are some of the most praised actors in all of gaming. Chances are you've played a game with these two in it, and once again, their voice acting is top fucking notch. Say what you want about the characters, but the voice acting is fucking perfect. Innovation and accessibility. Of course, The Last of Us Part 2 would be nominated for this. It has some of the most innovative accessibility features out there. You could literally play this entire fucking game blind, and you would probably be able to beat it. That's how good the features in this game are. Best Action Adventure. Obviously, The Last of Us Part 2 would be nominated for this again. Part 2 was obviously an action-adventure game and one of the best this year, so put them together and, well, there you go. So those are all the awards that the game's been nominated for. Every single one of those, I think, is being pretty fair.
Now, the Video Game Awards were announced today, and there are almost no surprises whatsoever. If we look at the main page here, we'll look at a couple of the categories. Game of the Year, Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, Animal Crossing New Horizons, and The Last of Us Part 2. The game that currently sits, even after all of the scrubbing and all the positive PR that Metacritic could possibly do, still just sits at a 5.7.
One of the common things this guy likes to say is that the reviews were paid off. I don't agree with them, so they've got to be paid off. Yep, again, I'm not saying that you can't dislike the game. It has its flaws. However, saying that the game is paid off with no other reasoning than I disagree is really fucking dumb. The 5.7 is from all the review bombing. Tons of people hate the game. It's super divisive. As well as tons of people like the game. That's why it's at a 5.7, which is in the middle.
User review. A game that goes out of its way to make you feel bad. Make you feel like trash.
Where does it make you feel bad? During the quote-unquote manipulative dog scenes? Those were a critique on Ellie's character, not the player. The game doesn't make you feel bad, it just makes you think. Sure, you can feel bad for the character, but that's on you. You didn't make any of these decisions. This game isn't happy. There is no good or bad, just a whole lot of gray in between. That's literally the entire message of the Last of Us series.
Is rearing its ugly head again. And when just we look at the game of the year, you can already see exactly what people think of the game. But of course, the video game awards are rigged.
Yep, here's that same old quartering attitude. I don't agree with it, so it's officially shill media. Good God, grow the hell up and learn that people have different opinions than you just jumping into accusations without any proof. And ironically, this guy complains about women making accusations without any proof when he's doing the exact same thing towards everything who disagrees with him. The double standards here are off the fucking charts.
And I can almost guarantee you that The Last of Us Part 2 will win Game of the Year, even though it should absolutely not. Ghost of Tsushima absolutely should. You could even make the argument Animal Crossing New Horizons, just based on how cross age the game is, how the mass appeal of the new Animal Crossing game, the fact that it sold thousands, tens of thousands of Switch units just for that game.
I can see that. I can honestly see any of these games winning Game of the Year, and I'd be 100% happy. I personally think that The Last of Us Part 2 is a little bit better than Ghost, especially in terms of story. I'm sorry, but Part 2's story just made me think a hell of a lot more than Ghost's story ever did. Animal Crossing winning is also very fair, because that game was easily the biggest game this year because of quarantine, and if we were to choose one game to represent this entire year in gaming, it would be Animal Crossing. Also, I'm waiting for your Ghost of Tsushima is woke trash because it has a bisexual character video to come out. Come on, Quarter, and give me the fucking goods.
Doom Eternal probably shouldn't be on there.
What the fuck did you just say? Doom Eternal shouldn't be nominated for Game of the fucking Year? One of the best first-person shooters with gameplay so good, it got me, a person who usually hates first-person shooters, to fall in love with it, and I was playing it on fucking console? Are you on coke? Like, I get it, you have the right to dislike something, but you never even gave a reason in the video why it shouldn't be nominated. What the fuck? I have absolutely no complaints for Doom Eternal for what it tries to be, other than it's not exactly my type of game. And I'm yet to find a valid criticism to Doom Eternal. I get that the game isn't for everyone, but how the hell can you deny it being worthy for Game of the Year?
Final Fantasy VII Remake, possibly. Probably not going to win that one, but it's hard to say. I mean, if you just browse through the comments, literally anybody cheering for The Last of Us Part 2 is getting absolutely blown out. Look at this. The Last of Us Part 2 is like if you played a Mario game, but every time you jumped, someone died, and the game made you feel like absolute garbage for jumping, despite it being the only thing you can do to progress. I mean, I can't think of a better way to describe The Last of Us Part 2.
Once again, The Last of Us Part 2 is a critique on its characters to show you that Joel and Ellie aren't these goody two-shoes heroes that we should be cheering for. It's the ultimate double standards test in the form of a game. It's proven that tons of people are hypocrites, including you.
Obviously, Ghost of Tsushima, in my opinion, should get the vote. A brand new IP. You know, there's so many, but it just sucks. Like, I don't think... I mean, Final Fantasy VII is a thing, but what hurts it probably is that it's literally a remake.
Resident Evil 2 was a remake. That got nominated. FF7R was easily one of my favorite games this year.
The Animal Crossing is still a sequel. And there is a wide variety of other things going on in here. But, of course, The Last of Us Part 2. I don't even know how. I suppose based on the sales numbers, you could make the argument that it's up there. I mean, it sold, what, more than 10 million copies, I think, for sure, right? Doom Eternal, I think, is light. Hades, surprise. It's good to see that get a different type of game. The Last of Us Part 2. Of course, here's the most controversial pick on the list, whether you either love or hate The Last of Us Part 2, or thought it was a travesty. Sorry, I think generally speaking, the backlash to the game has been overblown by a very, very loud small crowd. Really? 150,000 votes. How small is that crowd?
Sure, I guess that's fair. A lot of people didn't like the game, but half of 150,000 people is 75,000, which is half the score. Now, if you didn't know this, 75,000 people is not a lot. It's like the size of a small town. Now, let's just make an assumption, because a good chunk of these Metacritic reviews are reviews of people who haven't even played the game. That about 8,000 of them are either bots, and probably half of them haven't even played the game. So that narrows it down to less than 100,000 people. The game sold 4 million units at launch. 100,000, that's like 2.5% of the people who bought the game complaining about it online. That's a small amount of people. Also, take into consideration that TheQuartering himself never even said he played The Last of Us 2. So... yeah, you can make the argument that it's a story-based game, but you're ignoring the entire gameplay side of the game. There are people who hate the game's story but love the gameplay, and vice versa. You can talk all you want about the story being bad, but you can't judge the entire game unless you've played it yourself.
150,000. I'm not surprised to see its second spot here. In another year, I could see it winning, but with this competition, probably not. But best narrative seems like a shoo-in, no matter how sad you are who did or didn't die. You can see Last of Us 2 dominates Game Awards nominations, which is a joke. Look, if you want to nominate it for a Game of the Year and maybe one or two other categories, sure, but it definitely seems like you're forcing awards on it.
Once again, I don't understand your point. If Ghost of Tsushima was getting all these nominations, nobody would care. But because a game I didn't like got nominated, they're paid off. Shill media, forcing awards, yada yada yada, Neil Druckmann is simping. You see the double standards?
Surprise, surprise, Last of Us Part 2 gets the most nods of any game. It's nominated in 10 categories. Best art direction. I mean, Ghost of Tsushima is also in a bunch of categories.
This is exactly what I'm saying. Ghost of Tsushima got nominated a bunch, but when Last of Us 2 gets nominated a bunch, oh no, we can't have that. Shill media, paid off.
Ori and the Will of the Wisps, that's a beautiful looking game too. And again, Last of Us Part 2, really the best art direction. Nobody's talking about how beautiful the world is in The Last of Us 2. They're talking about that in Ghost of Tsushima or Final Fantasy VII or any of the other nominations here.
What the fuck are you talking about? Last of Us 2 is easily one of the best looking games of all time. It's fucking gorgeous. Any screenshot you take in this game is gorgeous. It has great looking levels, characters, worlds, and the tiny details in between. Sure, Ghost of Tsushima looks pretty, but it has tons of frame drops, even on PS4 Pro, while The Last of Us 2 maintains a steady frame rate, although it is at 30, I'll give it that, but so is Ghost. Last of Us 2 gives off this fucking gorgeous world. I even remember the more forgettable levels because of how damn good looking the game is. FF7 Remake has some pretty messy textures, and hell, so does Ghost.
Best score in music, okay, fine, but give me a break. Doom Eternal, you know, it'd be nice to see them cover this. It's the music in Doom Eternal can be less diverse, so maybe that will hurt it there. But best audio design might be a good category for it. You have Ghost of Tsushima, Resident Evil 3 here as well, and of course The Last of Us Part 2 because they crowbarred into everything. Best performance, Ashley Johnson as Ellie, Laura Bailey as Abby. They literally have two Last of Us. 2 of the 5 are the Last of Us. Like, give me a break. You couldn't find 5 different games. You had to put 2 on this. So it's like virtually assuring that Last of Us wins there.
For one, both Ashley Johnson and Laura Bailey do a wonderful performance in Part 2. You cannot deny that. No matter how much you hate the game, there are 4 things that you can't deny. You can't deny that it looks good, that the sound design is good, that the voice acting is good, and the music is well made. If you think they don't deserve the award, then don't vote for them. It's that fucking simple.
Miles Morales, probably a little too early to call that one. Not enough people are really going to play that game. You see Games for Impact. Okay, fine. Don't care about that at all. You have Best Ongoing, Apex Legends, Destiny 2, Call of Duty Warzone. Warzone will probably win. No Man's Sky should actually be winning, like, you know, some more awards because they really turned that game into something amazing. Best Indie Game, Fall Guys. That's obviously... I'm surprised Among Us isn't in here.
Oh my god. Among Us came out in 2018. It blew up this year because the mobile version came out. That's why it got nominated for Best Mobile Game. This is how this guy researches his videos. He just improvises and posts it while reading articles to extend the length to 10 minutes. It's so fucking lazy, it's not even funny.
Among Us not made by an indie company? That seems like it should be here. Oh, Best Mobile Game. They call it a mobile game? Really? I don't see people playing it on mobile devices, do they? Call of Duty Mobile should easily win this one. It's got like freaking 100 million users.
Genshin Impact, also super widely used, but also super ridiculous microtransactions. Pokemon Cafe, maybe. Best community support, okay, I guess. I can't, no Last of Us there. Then we have Best AR and VR. I mean, that should be Half-Life Alyx all day, twice on Sunday. Although Star Wars Squadrons is a good game, too.
Innovation and accessibility. The Last of Us Part 2. You had to put it here, too?
Yes, Part 2 is easily one of the most innovative games this year in accessibility. You can change the difficulty settings more than any game has. People are literally able to play the game blind. Once again, proving TheQuartering puts no effort into researching for his videos.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla. By the way, more and more people that I talk to that are playing this game are talking about how it's pretty mediocre. It's kind of a bummer to hear because it's one of the few like next-gen titles that I was excited to play. Streets of Rage 4 should win Best Action. It probably won't. Hades probably could do that here too. Same with Doom Eternal probably. But Streets of Rage 4 would be pretty good. You see Best Action Adventure. Oh, of course. Last of Us Part 2. Of course you're on here. Again, it's basically all the same games. You know, Spider-Man, Miles Morales, I don't think is getting the kind of acclaim that the last one did. But, you know, ultimately, you see a lot of support for Game of the Year. You're going to see the Last of Us fans. You see The Last of Us 2 actually nominated for Game of the Year. 680 likes. I mean, some of the top trending posts here. Actually, Persona 5 Yeah, well, that's a snub, right? Persona 5, the highest rated game on Metacritic, isn't even a Game of the Year nominee. I didn't even hardly see it in the nominations anywhere.
Persona 5 got nominated for Game of the Year in 2017. Royal wouldn't get nominated for Game of the Year because it's literally a remaster from 2017. Am I saying that Royal is a bad game? Fuck no. I'm literally using it as gameplay footage because I'm fucking addicted to that game. Royal just isn't eligible because it's a remaster of a game. In fact, if anything's rigged, it would be Persona 5 Royal getting nominated for anything because it's a deluxe version of a game that already came out. It'd be like one of Nintendo's deluxe titles getting nominated for anything. It wouldn't make sense because it's a game that already came out.
Honestly, I mean, it's hilarious.
Where we're largely trapped inside to avoid socializing and enjoy ourselves. I mean, Assassin's Creed is good. I don't know. I'd give it to Ghost of Tsushima almost certainly here. But if you look, the way he said The Last of Us Part 2, as if he's already giving it Game of the Year. I mean, that's exactly, I want to finish just talking about, to me, this feels like just a foregone conclusion that they're going to give it to The Last of Us Part 2, which is an absolute joke because there's no chance that it wins in fan voting. None. It's going to be Ghost of Tsushima in fan voting in a landslide. In my opinion. Now, I could be wrong. I mean, there are other good contenders. I wouldn't be mad if Animal Crossing won. The only time I've ever heard anyone talk about The Last of Us 2 is spend to say how supremely average it is.
Money talks, excuses already coming in, money talks. Exactly. This Game Awards are bought and paid for, absolutely.
And he said it. He said the line. He said the funny. I don't agree, so it's paid off. This guy is literally saying it's paid off when he has no proof. Maybe next time, find some proof for your accusations. Please. What happened to innocent until proven guilty? Fuck's sake.
Hope you enjoyed this video. It's going to be fun to cover. We'll talk to you again real soon.
And that's the end of the Quartering's video. I don't necessarily like this guy. He's kind of a dumbass. I don't hate him, I just don't like him. All of his videos are just him saying something over and over and over again, and then reading news articles to extend the video to 10 minutes. Like, I get it, you gotta chase that bag, which it's my fault for clicking on the video, obviously. My problem with the Quartering isn't that he hates The Last of Us 2. Plenty of people don't like it, and that's totally fine. There are flaws in that game that even I, someone who loves the game, can't get behind. However, my problem with the Quartering is that his videos are very poorly researched, he shows a very clear bias, and that his videos are honestly really lazy. So that was my rant on the Quartering. Some of you are probably going to disagree with me, and that's totally fine. I totally understand it. I've honestly been waiting a really long time to do a video on this guy, and I'm so glad I finally got to do it. But you know what? You guys want to hear my thoughts on the Game Awards? You don't, but I don't fucking care. I want The Last of Us 2 to win. I have explained why I like that game, and I totally understand why people don't, but The Last of Us Part 2 is easily my favorite game this year. I'm honestly really satisfied with the Game of the Year nominations. I genuinely don't have a problem with a single one of these games getting nominated. Doom Eternal was a fucking phenomenal game, and gameplay-wise, I have never heard a person make a valid complaint on it. Animal Crossing had me addicted to it back in March, and if there's any game I would want to represent 2020, it would be Animal Crossing, because this was easily the biggest game that came out this year. Ghost of Tsushima was a very good game. I got super addicted to this game back in September when I finally got to play it, although it isn't anywhere near as fun to play through the second time for some reason, and to be honest, it felt kind of like a mesh of a bunch of different games into one, although I would still be really happy if it won. FF7 Remake almost topped Last of Us 2 for me, but a lot of the emotional stuff in that game was taken from the original, although I will admit FF7 Remake was fun as hell. Hades is the one game on this list that I haven't played, and all that means is it's just another game that I'll have to check out since so many people love it. I'll elaborate on my thoughts for Game of the Year in a future video, but overall I want Last of Us 2 to win, but anything else winning is just as acceptable to me. In all honesty, I think this was the best year for gaming since 2017, but again, that's for a different video. As always, thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.